As I'm in my mid-40s, every song in the top 40 and on Radio 1 is utter crap. Everything on my generation is the best, and that's the sort of mentality we need to get out of for this car. Because Alfa Romeo, to me, to Harry, to most people of our generation, it evokes a sense of passion and reliability and various other things which will ultimately make this car anger the purists. I can hear the comment section now. There'll be just lots of people saying this is not an Alfa, how dare they? I mean, it's not even Italian anymore. It's part of the Stellantis group. It shares many components with Vauxhall, Citroëns, Fiat, Jeep, Peugeots. Would that dilute the brand? It was going to be called the Milano, but the Italians said, no, it's made in Poland. You're not calling it that, so it's now called the Junior. It's not got a combustion engine in it, although there is one with a combustion engine. It's a 1.2. So effectively, a full electric Alfa is, it's the biggest kick in the nuts to the combustion engine purists. But this isn't for us. This is for earlier generations, people who know who Tay-Tay is. I don't know, is it some sort of band? They've probably never even encountered the Alfa brand. And without this, you know which way the world is going. We are going electric. Whether you agree with it or not, that's where we're heading. If this doesn't exist, then the special Alfas don't exist either, or won't have a chance of turning up. Just like the Porsche Taycan keeps the 911 alive for longer. We need to look at this as the newer generation. For people who are new to the brand, how does this appeal to those who have never known an Alfa before? Now, in terms of looks, it definitely has some Alfa-ness about it. This grille here, although there's a bit of silver missing, that's an Alfa thing, isn't it? It's a bit odd, and not everyone likes it, but it's there. The number plate, thanks to the EU, is now in the middle instead of over here. So there's a lot, kind of, again, that's going to annoy the purists. It looks different. And I always give maximum points for cars that look like nothing else on the road. It's not a Euro box. You're not going to mistake it for anything else. And that alone is a good thing for me. I do like the fact that we've got, if I get the keys out, these DRLs with the little 3 notches on. Just gives it a little bit of presence. I like that. And I don't know, there's just something missing that means it's not quite an Alfa for me. I can't quite put my finger on it though. There we go. Now it looks like an Alfa. There is an optional frunk part that you can get. So it's not standard and it's only going to fit your cables, but there is at least a slight option. Now, as I said earlier, this is part of the Stellantis group. So this underneath is essentially a Fiat 600e, a Jeep Avenger, a Peugeot E2008, a Vauxhall Mocha. And the side is the one that kind of gives you that idea the most. It's the one that you can't really hide the shape of it. It's a Stellantis clone. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that there's a lot of familiarity. It's easy for me to say. You have some quite nice wheels, I do quite like them. And this is a Speciale, which is the mid-spec. We'll talk about the Veloce, which is the top trim level, later on. You have the handles for the rear up here, so your kids can't reach it. And, well, we'll show you the rear separately because like the Fiat 600 and a few others, there's a few issues when it comes to family sort of carness. And you've got the charging port here, which does 100 kilowatts. With a 50 odd kilowatt hour battery, it's about enough. It's a small SUV. There's no hiding that. And one thing worth mentioning, there's a lip here, which means every time you get in and out of the car, you get filthy ankles. The rear of the Kia EV6, I'm sorry, the Alfa Romeo Junior, yeah, I quite like it actually. It does, again, have a little bit of EV6 about it in terms of the shape of the lights, but the rest of it is quite, well, semi-unique. Again, I don't think you're going to look at the back of this and think it's ugly. You might not like it, but it's a nice looking car for me. It's got a bit of design flair. There's a lot of black plastic going on, but this is where you probably want things to be knocked into in a car park rather than the painted stuff. You've got this black roof, which is optional. And, you know, you've got this kind of concave bit. It's got some nice angles going on. And, of course, the dirty, filthy camera. Now, the boot, kind of middle ground, really. It's not quite as big as the E2008 that it shares its stuff with. And it's acceptable, I would say. You do have a bit of storage underneath, which can lower to different levels of floor. You can just take it out entirely, whatever you prefer. So, again, it's not bad, but it's not the best. Right, so this is the inside of the Alfa Romeo Junior. The steering wheel feels pretty nice, but it is the standard Stellantis affair. All these buttons are very familiar if you're familiar with what we're talking about. The only odd bit I find, though, with this entire interior is that you've got these kind of nice, softish materials, but then this, very much a touch point for me, is low-grade plastic. The rest of it, you can either get away with it because it's out of your reach, or it just kind of fits. So this bit of plastic here on the binnacles, this bit there, it kind of all fits, it works. And look at these are beautiful, especially when they're backlit. I'll turn them on in a second. You do have a bit of a storage bin, just about for a bottle, and you've got more storage for bottles down there as well as storage down there. Closed storage, Harry, which is quite important.
That's all right, isn't it?
And that does move forwards and backwards, so you get a good position. But you need that closed storage because
That's very poor.
it's a comical glove box.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a glove box just for gloves. You would recognise these screens from the standard Stellantis group screens, although the way they've kind of incorporated them into the dash, this is kind of angled towards the driver. I do like that. And you've got these red highlights there. Even these are highlighted, so at night it looks quite cool. The screen, so for example, you've got the sat nav up when you're using it. It's virtual cockpit-esque and it's clear. This is the same, it's nice and clear to use. Occasionally it lags though, so if I put it into reverse now, it just takes a few seconds. Sometimes you get these lines without the camera for like 2 or 3 seconds, but of course, Apple CarPlay and all that sort of stuff takes care of the bulk of it. You've got the optional wireless charging pad down here with 2 USBs and a place to put your stuff. And there are some nice touches. I do quite like these and it feels solid. That's nice. And look at that kind of brushed aluminium.
Nice, isn't it? But
yeah.
just why
not carry it on?
Yeah.
We have the black gloss affair, which you usually get with the crumb catchers, where you do pick reverse drive, and B mode, which I'll come back to in a second because it's not the best in terms of regen. Drive mode, you have 3. So the top one is dynamic, natural, that's about 100 brake instead of 150, and advanced efficiency drops it down to about 80. There is an optional sunroof because it's quite a dark place. It's a very dark place, but the black and red Alfa sort of it does kind of
work.
These are standard seats. You've got the Alfa logo, which is throughout the cabin.
That's nice.
I quite like this red kind of almost flash or painting. So no, that's quite nice, and they are comfortable, of course. But they do seats called the Corsa seats.
Not to be confused with
not a Vauxhall Corsa seats, no, sports seats essentially. So I'll put a picture up on now, and for me,
they are nice.
they're expensive, but it's worth every penny.
Yeah, definitely.
Now this seat is in the same position you had before, which is your normal position for a passenger. You're not massively tall.
No, I've got little legs.
Doesn't look like there's a huge amount of space in there, but is it okay?
It's not. Do you know? It's not brilliant, but it's doable. There's something under the seat that's stopping my feet moving forwards.
So is this small kids only?
It's small kids only, yeah. There's no door bins in the back.
No storage?
No.
So if you've got a cup or a bottle in the back, where do you put it? In the back of the seat?
Will this come down?
No, that doesn't come down. So you'd have to put it in the
back
pouch.
of there. And this is going to cause arguments.
Okay.
A single USB.
One USB slot in a modern car is pretty poor.
Yep.
If you have the Corsa seats, they don't have the pouches in the back.
No.
So you've literally no storage in the back of a family car.
It's an oversight, isn't it, really?
It's a bit of an
on a family car.
So, where do you put Alfa Romeo? Are they a premium brand in your eyes?
Always were a premium brand. Historically, I think definitely. It's you know, it was like the Italians' version of a BMW. Certain models were sporty, but they always have had a layer of luxury. The interiors were often a lot nicer than what
and they weren't common.
Get.
But I like this because it doesn't look like
anything else.
Yeah. And for the majority of people out there, the non-car person, if you will, they go, "Oh, what's that? Oh, well, that's different. What is it?" It's a talking point.
I think as well the name carries a certain prestige. It does make you feel a little bit special. It's got something else about it.
You're not going to get that from a Vauxhall Mocha.
You're not, no. And I think the thing is as well,
Bad snobbery.
you're going to put this in a car park and it is going to stand out a little bit. Which in today's market, when everything looks so similar, it's just nice to have.
In terms of list price, these are a bit over 30 grand starting, and then the Veloce is like over 42,
yeah.
and I spec'd one up on the website, so this is list, 48.
Wow.
So that's very much into the luxury bracket, the ECS car tax.
And the thing is, at that price, there's a lot of other cars you can get for less and just for a little bit more that are in a different league completely.
However, the Veloce isn't a trim level.
No.
We've driven it, but not on camera and only briefly, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, but I do not understand your question.
Where did that come from?
Is it Shed Veloce? Stop.
I'm sorry.
Go away.
Yeah.
The Veloce, I won't mention who makes this because she'll pipe up again. It's not a trim level. It's for me, it's a different car.
Yeah.
It's like going from a base spec Volkswagen Golf to a Golf R.
Yeah, it's a different beast, isn't it?
280 brake, whereas this has 150 odd. Same as all the other Stellantis stuff. You've got limited slip diff. You've got a different suspension. It's lower.
What's the hot hatch?
So that, even though it's a lot more expensive, with those seats, then I would almost feel it's quite special. And
It's very special, isn't it?
A Veloce Junior will be very rare.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many people that are going to spend that amount of money on a B segment SUV that's not that practical.
It's not
in the back.
practical, yeah.
And the Veloce is front wheel drive.
Which is, I think, it's a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
I would love to have,
It needs to be fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So for me, that is a different review entirely.
it's darty, isn't it? It's
very
connected.
Yeah, it's very short rack, isn't it?
Yeah.
As it were, even though it's electric, in terms of the steering. So you do feel like it's egging you on a little bit, but it is just underneath, if I'm being blunt, the same as a Mokka, the same as an E2008 in terms of the driving. It's got 150 odd brake, which is more than enough.
It's plenty, isn't it? And
I mean, look, foot to the floor, and
It's
there we
scrabbling,
go.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not much. E2008 or this,
I'd have this.
even though that might be cheaper.
I think,
realistic?
yeah.
Mokka, that could be a fair bit cheaper.
I think, it's almost like a different sort of...
Yeah.
I think I'd still pay the premium and go for this. It
I
just
would.
feels a little bit more special.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now this is a tough one. The Jeep Avenger.
Ooh, I would have to
like
test... I did like that. It was a good car, that, wasn't it? It was
Because
really...
it felt like a Jeep.
Yeah.
In the way the same way that this feels like an Alfa in
I think
most
I need
parts.
both. They do very different things,
Depends
don't
what
they?
mood you're in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Fiat 600e or this.
Ooh, tricky.
That just shows you, doesn't it? Same ingredients, different chef.
Oh, and the difference.
The difference between that,
day
the
and
Jeep,
night.
and this
Yeah.
is massive, isn't
Yeah.
it? Although, to a certain demographic,
The
the Fiat will suit people. So it's very much whatever flavour you prefer. I mean, it's not exactly the sportiest thing. I mean, look, come on.
It's,
20, 30.
It sort of picks up a little bit, doesn't it? Just as it gets to
It
about
bleeds
30.
it in, doesn't it? Yeah. And this
They all
is
do that, don't they?
the next gen battery only, so the
It's a 56?
50,
Is it something like that?
2
Is it
kilowatt hour,
52?
I think.
Right.
It's actually surprisingly efficient. I mean, at the moment we're in middle of winter. It's barely above freezing,
Freezing.
Yeah.
Absolutely freezing, isn't it?
but we're getting 200 miles out of it.
Yeah, I think that's really good. That's
So-
4 miles per kilowatt hour.
Between 200 and 240 miles
Yeah.
of real world range. Of course, you could get more if you wanted, and you could get less if you tried hard enough. But as an average
I
year
think
round,
so, yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
And that's more than acceptable, I think, from
Yeah, acceptable. Well, they're doing an SUV, a Maserati, a full electric SUV,
Yeah.
which is meant to be really good, and a Roadster
Yeah.
with 800 brake horsepower and a 100 odd kilowatt hour battery.
Wow.
Imagine if that technology becomes available to Alfa. All of a sudden this becomes their sell a lot of, and they exist.
Alfa has the credibility, historically,
To do it.
to pull that off, unlike the likes of Vauxhall or Fiat. It's the Cupra Born.
Cupra Born, that's a fair shout.
I think I'd have the Cupra Born.
It's just that much more practical. It's a lot more practical, actually.
Yeah.
It does look
It's
cool.
a family car.
Is this enough with kids or kid?
You
get away with
in
it,
this
wouldn't
day and age. Probably just about.
You'd be okay, but as
I
a
mean,
baby,
it's going to be
you'd
tricky.
struggle,
Yeah, those
you'd
back
really
doors are really tricky to get in and out. They're very
Yeah,
narrow.
the car
It's a
is.
difficult one. If you've grown up in our generation where you were sat in the back of an Escort or a Fiesta,
we had a Metro.
yeah, and that you were like this on your way to Blackpool. That's just how you lived.
Yeah. In terms of driving, it's not special, is it?
No,
As in, forget the Veloce for a second. This
no, it's
pretty average.
It's pretty average. The only thing I do like about this is the like you said, the steering rack earlier. It's very direct as opposed to some of the other cars.
I guarantee the comment section, as I said earlier, will be, it's not an Alfa.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
It's
It's still got the-
licensed, isn't it? It's a licensed Alfa Romeo.
But how many things are what they originally were.
Well, most Fords now are Volkswagens.
Exactly. Ford are using the ID3 chassis or the ID4 for all theirs.
Yeah.
I think people need to get over this naming thing.
Well,
like,
manufacturers
you know.
have been doing this for years with parts, so haven't they? It's not a new thing. I think nowadays, though, it's just done like wholesale. It's the whole car, more or less.
The Ford Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Did that make the Aston Martin feel less special? Nah, of course it did. If we look at it from somebody who is completely unfamiliar with the Alfa brand, what do you think they'll think of in terms of the looking at this car? So they don't know the history.
I think they'll really like it.
I think they will do, yeah, because the looks of it are unique. Some will hate it, some will like it, but it's different.
It's very
That's nice, and
it looks almost premium.
they're aiming for the premium-esque.
Yeah.
And there are some bits that kind of shout that, but then there are some bits that don't. A good introduction for the new generation of buyers, if that makes sense.
Have they done an Alfa Romeo? All Alfa Romeo cars had personalities. Whether that was it was breaking down on you, or it was fun to drive, or it sounded amazing, they all had a personality, and this has managed to have one as well.
It's a bit diluted.
Yeah.
Before we get any Alfa people jumping up and down.
But in terms of
yeah,
what they could have made with these ingredients,
or is the personality here because of our memories of it?
that could be a factor.
You know,
couldn't it?
so that's why I'm thinking it's quite difficult to put yourself in the position of someone that doesn't know Alfa Romeo at all.
Yeah. It does make me wonder whether they'll hold the value quite well just because there's so few around, or they can absolutely plummet. Who knows?
Then they become a bargain on the used market.
And you're just not enough around.
Yeah. The cheapest mocker at the moment, brand new mocker, quite a high spec one though, 32.5 grand at the moment. I think that's time of year.
Do you know what?
So would you pay an extra 2 or 3 grand over the other stuff we mentioned than this?
Yeah.
And well, we said it before, haven't we? We would do.
Yeah. I don't even have to think about that. It's definitely worth that, and I'd definitely upgrade the seats as well. It is quite noisy.
It is, isn't it?
Do you think it's the tyres? I think it's wind noise. I think it's the wind mirrors.
Or a bit of both.
A bit of both. Yeah, wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll mark that up as a bit of a
negative.
downfall.
Yeah.
I really didn't think I would like this, and I like to be surprised. We get that occasionally, don't we, with some cars where you're like, oh, this is going to be awful. You think this is really
And then
good,
you get it and
actually.
you go, actually, no, this is, yeah.
Yeah, so no, I have to say, I hope this makes Alfa a little bit more comfortable in terms of financial security to do the special
I
stuff.
hope this does the numbers, yeah, like you said. I hope this does the numbers, so it means that Alfa get the green light to go,
Let's do that
let's
next.
do something a bit bonkers.
Yeah, remember the Mito?
Yeah.
I've only been in an Alfa Romeo Mito once, and it was a brand new car in a dealership, and I kid you not, I got out of the car and the handle came off
Really?
in my hand. We used to work with someone that was A, Italian, and B, only owned Alfas.
Yep.
And the first time he bought, was it the Brera? How did it arrive at the works car park?
On the back of a low.
And then AA truck.
yep.
And that is not a joke. I swear down that is not a joke.
We used to joke, didn't we, and said that if he pressed the home button on his sat nav, it just took him to the garage.
But he loved that car.
He did, yeah. He
And
was
that-
gutted. Someone wrote it off, went into the back of him,
Oh no.
and he was gutted.
And that's what Alfa have always got, which almost, there's hardly any brands that have that. It's just turning them to an electrification
It's a
drivetrain.
very difficult.
That's what I mean. It's only for the new generations that will
Yeah.
not know the petrol engines to miss them. That's who this is for. So if you are an Alfa fan, as we've said many times now, it's not for you. It's not for us.
This has to exist so that other things from Alfa can.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll tell you what is special as well,
What special was that?
membership.
You know what? That is an
Look
emotional
at that,
connection.
it is.
No one saw that one coming.
No,
99p a month, I believe.
it is, yeah. It's a bargain.
Oh no!
What?
We've forgotten.
What have we forgotten?
What food is this?
Oh, what food is this? Ew, it's a pizza because it's Italian and it's an emotional pizza.
An emotional pizza.
Yeah,
We'll just stick with that. It's an emotional.
it's an emotional pizza.
That's brilliant. Right. Well, thanks, guys.
See you later.
Bye.